Hi, it's Christina with the Sisyphean Journal again. Karlyn Borysenko is really cranking out the videos, so I'm really responding, and I'm going to listen to this one. It's nice and short, and it's called Pro-Abortion Activists Take No Responsibility for Getting Pregnant. So, first of all, yes, Karlyn, you are seeing that pro-abortion is not pro-choice, which is something I wish I could get through to right-to-lifers. Okay? And if you look, if you have a Venn diagram, there is actually overlap between pro-lifers and pro-choicers. And, you know, the number of people who want what the abortion lobby is actually pushing for probably doesn't exist much outside the actual abortion lobby, if you want to know the truth. So let's hear what Karlyn has to say here.
And vast numbers of people, according to the research that was done on the impact of the Hyde Amendment, did in fact stay pregnant. Other people sought out unsafe providers. Rosie Jimeniz in 1977 became the first known person to die from the Hyde Amendment.
Okay, I should have known she was going to lump into the Rosie Jimeniz being the first known woman to die from the Hyde Amendment. Rosie didn't die because of the Hyde Amendment. Rosie died because the abortion lobby made damn sure everybody knew that that was going to turn off the tap for the free abortions, but didn't let women know about other resources. I mean, nobody in Rosie's life knew that she could go to a pregnancy resource center and get help. And nobody in Rosie's life seemed to know that a sliding scale abortion at Planned Parenthood would have cost her just $5 more than she paid for the illegal abortion that killed her. Rosie Jimeniz died because the abortion rights movement needed a corpse, and they were going to create one. And they did, and then they blame Henry Hyde for it. I'll link below to Rosie's story. A woman named Ellen Frankfurt did a really great investigation. I really recommend her book, Rosie, the Investigation of a Wrongful Death. And Ellen Frankfurt is definitely 100% pro-choice, but she was absolutely appalled at this situation. Now, she did cover how Rosie ended up having this criminal abortion instead of having a safe, legal, and rare abortion. But Frankfurt didn't look at the systems that the abortion rights movement put into place to make sure somebody like Rosie would die. And the other thing is, they ignore the women who died from legal abortions because they don't matter. If there is anybody that matters, okay, the person who matters least is the fetus. In fact, yay, hooray, it's dead for the pro-abortion people. I know people like Karlyn, ordinary pro-choice people, are not, yay, dead fetuses, yay, let's kill all the babies. But for the pro-abortion movement, every abortion's a good thing. It's a good thing. It's not a tragic necessity. It's a positive good. And the dead women are the necessary tragedy. Okay? And that's something I want Karlyn to get hold of. For them, for your ordinary pro-choice person, the dead baby is a necessary tragedy. And the death of a woman is absolutely horrendous. And they would, if they knew why these women were dying, they'd be appalled. But for the pro-abortion people, the dead baby's a good thing, and the dead mother is just a tragic necessity.
She had received a Medicaid abortion before.
She died from the Hyde Amendment. Can we just think about the way that Amy Littlefield phrased that? She didn't die because she got pregnant and then couldn't afford to get an abortion and then did something dangerous to terminate the pregnancy. No. She didn't die because of any of those things. She died because of the Hyde Amendment. These people quite literally want you to abdicate all personal responsibility.
And and not just Rosie's responsibility, but again, I'll give you the link to the story about Rosie. The government had been paying for Rosie's abortion, so no responsibility. Her doctor didn't take responsibility. He just told her no more free abortions and abandoned her. Planned Parenthood did not put out word that they would provide cheap abortions to poor women. Okay, Rosie was set up for death. They wanted a dead woman they could hang around Henry Hyde's neck.
And that's how we know they're socialists. They want the state to have responsibility for everything and the individual to have responsibility for nothing. If, like, listen, man, and again, I'm pro-choice. But if you are getting a back alley abortion, that is a choice that you made. You, in all likelihood, unless you were assaulted, you made the choice to have sex. You made the choice not to be on birth control. You made the choice to not try to find a way to get a couple $100s with which to have a safe clinic abortion. And by the way, guys, I'm sorry, I don't buy into this. We just can't afford it. There are always ways to make a couple $100s if you need to. There really are. You can always make money if you need to. Don't tell.
Not to mention the abortion rights movement, when they're arguing this, poor women will be forced to illegal abortions, they hide the fact that there are abortion rights groups that will cover the cost of abortions and travel and everything else for low-income women. Unlike the pro-lifers who advertise that they have free services available to help women avoid abortions, they let the news about these abortion funds be something that the abortion clinic shares with the woman if offering those funds to her is the only way to get her on the table. But they don't make it widely known that it's available. And part of it is they want Uncle Sam to pick up the tab for everyone. They don't want to be donating. But the other is, you know, they're just a bunch of cheap bastards, to tell the truth.
Tell me any differently. I make money in like 15 different ways. You made the choice every single step of the way. It is not the Hyde Amendment's fault that you died. You died as a result of your own choices. And I'm going to acknowledge she was probably in a tough position. I'm not saying that it was like all easy, but guess what? That's life. That's called being an adult. And if you can't handle it, don't have sex.
The Hyde Amendment was passed, but after, when she got pregnant again, she could no longer afford it, and so she went to an unsafe provider and died from a subsequent infection.
Went to an unsafe provider.
So she died from an unsafe provider. Okay, you know, thank you.
We can talk about it in the sort of trend.
I think Karlyn's kind of picking up on the fact that that unsafe provider was responsible for taking those instruments and sticking them in Rosie's uterus. And I would say Rosie's friends were responsible for taking her to the unsafe provider.
I'll bring up repeatedly of like the pro-choice movement failing to center women of color adequately, right? Like there was a hesitance to rally around.
Oh, that was the fact that this woman went to an unsafe provider and died as the result of like a botched abortion is the failure of the pro-choice movement to center women of color.
Okay, I'm glad Karlyn's picking up on that weirdness, but that's not the reason it's the pro-choice movement's fault Rosie died. It's they needed a corpse. That's why Rosie died.
We'll rewind that and listen to that again, because I know that was a little choppy with me jumping in there, but that's quite literally what Amy Littlefield just said. But I want to take the super chat from Nuritu. Have you thought about putting a Nitwits stream into a playlist? I probably should do that, Nuritu. You're right about that. I'll add that to the list of 87 things I have to do. Thank you for the suggestion, though. I do appreciate it. Let me just rewind this like little bit here so we can listen to this again.
Rosie Jimeniz in 1977 became the first known person to die from the Hyde Amendment. She had received...
I just noticed this. It was the first known person. They're not even calling her a woman because they're pretending that men can get pregnant. We might also note that a lot of persons are alive because of the Hyde Amendment, because their mothers, since abortion wasn't just that, just pop off and get a freebie. You know, if mom was kind of sitting on the fence, she wound up having the baby, and then other women were a little bit more careful with their birth control. But there are people who are alive because the government would not fund mom's abortion, and mom wound up having a baby. And contrary to popular belief, wanting an abortion is not the same as wanting a baby to be dead. We can talk about the mental process of that. The typical woman climbing on the abortion table is in fight or flight mode. She's not thinking about, do I want this baby to live or die? She's thinking, I want to be out of this situation. And, you know, once she's out of that original panic mode, she tends to love her baby just as much as if the idea never crossed her mind. And this is something the abortion rights people know, because they'll talk about what a heinous thing adoption is, because it tears this baby from its mother's arms. By the time the baby's born, most of the time, mom just as happy as any other mom.
Received a Medicaid abortion before the Hyde Amendment was passed.
And actually, it was 2 Medicaid abortions before the Hyde Amendment was passed.
But after, when she got pregnant again, she could no longer afford it, and so she went to an unsafe provider and died from a subsequent infection. And you know, we can talk about it in the sort of trend that I'll bring up repeatedly of like the pro-choice movement failing to center women of color adequately, right? Like there was
the pro-choice movement failed to center women of color adequately.
I wonder if Karlyn's going to pick up on the fact that the pro-choice movement certainly does center on women of color. That's where they put their abortion clinics, and they are twice as successful at selling abortions to black women as to white women, even though black women tend to be more pro-life than white women.
And that's why this person died from the Hyde Amendment, not because she got pregnant when she couldn't afford to have more kids, and then went to a bad abortion provider because she didn't want to raise the couple $100s to go to a different clinic. Like, it's all because the pro-choice movement didn't center women of color. This is how we know that Amy is a socialist.
Okay, so that's all Karlyn had to say. She didn't pick up on the fact that the abortion movement does very much center on women of color. It wants to get them onto the abortion table.